presenting to you the top 10 amazing games played by the masters in which they delivered quick checkmates in the King's Gambit. So here is the first game. So the game starts with e4, e5, f4, and now black accepts the gambit and white plays knight to f3, black plays g5, providing extra protection to this f4 pawn. White plays bishop to c4, eyeing the weak f7 pawn, and black here plays h6 and forms a strong pawn chain on the king side. White attacks the pawn chain by playing h4 and black here defends with f6. If white captures the pawn, then black can easily capture back and he would still have this strong pawn chain over here. And therefore here, instead of capturing this pawn, white decided to clear up the way for his queen by moving this knight to the e5 square. So white plays knight to e5, sacrificing his piece and also double attacking this weak f7 square over here. Black took the sacrifice and now white attacked with queen h5 check. King has only one square, so he moved to e7 and now queen f7 check. The only square the king can go to is d6 and now queen d5 check. Again the king has only one square, king to e7, and now queen takes e5 is a checkmate. Here is the second game. Game starts with e4, e5, f4, and now black accepts the gambit and now white plays knight to f3, developing his king side piece, and black protects his pawn with g5 and white plays bishop to c4, and here black plays g4, attacking white's knight, and instead of defending this knight, white decides to sacrifice this knight for a quick development. So he does kingside castling. Black happily accepts the knight, and now again instead of wasting time in capturing this pawn back, white focuses on a quick development and that's why plays the move knight to c3. Two of white's pieces are developed. This rook is active on this file and black doesn't have a single piece developed in his army. But black here doesn't really cares for his lack in development. He gets greedy and captures the g2 pawn as well, thinking that now he is completely disrupting white's kingside structure. But here now white shocks his opponent by playing bishop takes f7 check. King took the bishop and now white plays rook takes f4 check. If here king moves to e8, then white can quickly finish off the game by queen h5 check, king moves to e7, the only square, and now queen e5 would be a checkmate. Let's go back. So therefore after this rook check, black decided to block this check with his knight. So he plays knight to f6, developing his minor piece as well as blocking this check. But even this move quickly loses because white can now play e5, attacking the pinned knight. Black develops another piece with bishop to e7 and now white plays queen h5 check, king moves to f8, pawn captures knight and now the bishop is under attack. So bishop moves to the d6 square, attacking the rook, which is very important piece in white's army. But instead of saving this rook, white focuses to go after the black king. So he plays queen h6 check, king moves to e8 and now f7 check, king moves to e7 and now knight d5 is a checkmate. Here is how black checkmated white in the King's Gambit. Game starts with e4, e5, f4, black takes the pawn and now white plays knight to f3, developing his kingside piece. Black plays knight to f6, attacking white's e-pawn. Pawn pushes to e5, attacking black's knight, and knight moves to h5 in order to defend this f4 pawn over here. And here white plays knight to c3, simply developing. Black plays d6, attacking this overextended pawn of white, but white simply ignores and develops his kingside bishop. So he plays bishop to c4, eyeing the weak f7 pawn, and now black captures the centralized pawn, knight captures back, and now it looks like that black is losing because two of white's pieces are targeting this weak f7 pawn over here. Also not to forget that white's queen has a discovered attack on this undefended knight of black. Looks like black is completely losing here. But instead of trying to defend these minor pieces, black decides to launch a deadly attack on white's king. So black plays queen h4 check, king moves to f1 and now bishop to e6, attacking the c4 bishop. Bishop captures bishop and now instead of capturing this bishop back and wasting time, black here played the crushing knight to g3 check. If white captures the knight, then he loses the rook. So therefore, after knight g3 check, white moved his king to the g1 square. But here black now played bishop c5 check. White blocked the check with d4, but here black made another sacrifice, bishop takes d4 check. Queen captured the bishop and now black forked white's pieces with knight e2 check. White cannot afford to lose his queen, that is why he captured this knight with his knight. So white plays knight takes e2, but that's a horrible mistake because queen e1 is a checkmate. Here is the fourth game. So the game starts with e4, e5, f4, pawn takes pawn, knight f3, g5, bishop c4, g4 attacking the knight, and white sacrifices his knight for quick development, so he castles. Black accepts the sacrifice and now queen takes back the pawn. And now white's queen and the rook has formed a battery on this f file, and they have a lot of pressure on this weak f7 pawn. So here black played bishop to h6, trying to protect this pawn over here so that white is not able to open this file. But here white played d4, adding one more attacker to this pawn, and now black played knight to c6 because he can no longer defend this pawn. So by playing knight to c6, he is now trying to threaten this d4 pawn over here and attack white's queen, but white really doesn't care because he plays knight to c3, develops another knight, and black plays knight takes d4, attacking white's queen as well as the weak c2 pawn. But here white surprises black with bishop takes f7 check. King captures the bishop, and now white plays queen h5 check. King goes to g7, and now white captures the f4 pawn. Bishop captures bishop, rook captures bishop, and now black plays knight to f6, attacking white's queen. But white plays queen g5 check, king moves to f7, and now white activates the other rook by getting it on the f1 square, and now white has formed a battery, and there is a lot of pressure against this weak pinned knight over here because it's attacked by 3 of white's pieces and defended only by 2 of black's pieces. Black can't really save this knight, so he just plays queen to e7, and now white captures the knight with a check, king moves to e8, and now knight to d5, attacking black's queen. Queen takes the pawn. What else she can play here? She doesn't have any move because with all of these active white pieces, black's king is soon getting checkmated on this open e file. So white now plays rook f8 check, black plays rook takes rook, and now knight takes c7 is a checkmate. Here is another amazing game. So the game starts with e4, e5, f4, pawn takes pawn, knight f3, g5, h4. White here decides to attack this pawn directly in the fourth move. And here black pushes his pawn forward to g4, attacking white's knight. Knight moves to e5, double attacking the g4 pawn as well as keeping an eye on the f7 pawn. And now bishop goes to g7, attacking the knight. Knight takes pawn, and now here black plays d5, attacking white's center. White captures the pawn, but now the e file is open. So black immediately plays queen e7 check. King moves to f2, and now white plays bishop d4 check. King moves to f3, and now bishop takes g4 check, skewing white's pieces. White is now forced to take this bishop if he wants to save his queen. So king captures the bishop, but look how horribly out this king is on the board. So black continues the attack with knight f6 check, king now moves to f3, and now queen e4 is a checkmate. Here is another cool one. So the game starts with e4, e5, f4, pawn takes pawn, knight f3, g5, protecting the f4 pawn, and now knight to c3. White is simply focused on developing his pieces, and here black plays g4, attacking white's knight. Knight moves to e5, and now queen h4 check. That's quite aggressive. White blocks the check with g3, and now f takes g3, threatening to push this pawn forward and reveal a discovered attack on white's king. But white is not scared of this because white did his calculations well, and he captures the g4 pawn, offering to trade queens. But black doesn't trade queens and instead goes on to play g2, forking white's pieces as well as revealing a discovered attack on the king. Queen takes queen is an obvious move over here, and now black regains his queen by capturing on h1 square and promoting his pawn into a queen. Black is up a whole piece because white has lost a rook for nothing, and it looks like that black is winning. But white has an active set of pieces over here, and black's king is still stuck in the center. So white decides to now counter attack on black's king. So white plays queen to h5, double attacking the pawn on f7. This pawn can be protected, so that is why black plays bishop to e7, so that this bishop cannot be attacked and the king can move to the d8 square. But instead of capturing this pawn with the queen, white decides to capture with his knight, threatening to reveal a discovered attack by capturing this rook over here. And here black develops another piece by playing knight to f6, also attacking white's queen. But here white decides to go aggressive and plays knight d6 check. It's a double attack on the king because even this queen is checking the black king. If king moves to f8, then queen f7 is a checkmate. Let's go back. So that is why king moved to the d8 square. But here white made another sacrifice. Queen e8 check. Doesn't matter with which piece black recaptures back, because after any of these captures, knight f7 is a beautiful checkmate. This is a unique checkmate trap in the king's gambit. The game starts with e4, e5, f4, and now black here plays the king's gambit declined variation. He protects the pawn with his other pawn. White plays knight to f3, attacking one more time. Black plays knight to c6, defending one more time, and now bishop to c4, eyeing the weak f7 pawn. And black plays knight to f6, developing one more piece as well as attacking this undefended e4 pawn. White defends with knight to c3, black plays bishop to g4, pinning white's knight to the white's queen. White plays d3, adding defense to the center pawn. Black plays bishop to e7, preparing to castle, and now white castles, and now black plays knight to h5, double attacking this f4 pawn over here. White simply captures the center pawn, and black captures back with his knight. And looks like he has got a very good position, because not only he is attacking our bishop over here, but he is double attacking this pinned knight over here. But white here decides to go bold and captures the centralized knight over here. Well, looks like white is sacrificing his queen for nothing. But don't underestimate the power of these active strong pieces which are eyeing at the black's king side. But black doesn't understand this idea and happily captures the queen over here. But this leads to his quick demise, because white now starts his brutal attack with bishop takes f7 check. King goes to f8, and now bishop takes h5 check. It's a discovered check by this rook over here. Black blocks the check with his bishop, and now white makes another sacrifice with rook takes f6 check. If queen captures the rook, then black will lose his queen to knight d7 check, because that will force black's pieces. So that is why in the game, the player captured the rook with his pawn. But this move just opened up this diagonal towards black's king. So white immediately takes advantage of that by playing bishop h6 check. King moves to e7, and now knight d5 check. Look how beautifully all of these pieces are attacking black's king. King moves to e6, and now bishop f7 check. Another sacrifice. White is sacrificing his centralized knight over here. King captures the knight. And now white's king is kind of trapped in the middle of the board, and the only legal square he has access to is this square on d4. So white plays c3, taking control of the square, and now black's king doesn't have access to any of these squares. He's trapped in the middle of the board, and now it doesn't matter what move he plays next, because any move played by black over here is not going to help him, because white can now finish off the game with bishop f4 checkmate. Here is another one. The game starts with e4, e5, f4, and now bishop to c5. Black gets his bishop out in order to stop white from castling kingside. And here white plays knight to f3, developing his kingside piece as well as attacking this e5 pawn one more time. Black defends with d6, and white here plays c3 in order to prepare d4 and attack this bishop over here as well as black's strong center. But here black chooses to play queen to e7. His idea is he's looking forward to open this file so that he can start attacking white's king. But white continues with d4 anyway. Pawn takes pawn, and now pawn takes pawn, and now queen takes e4 check. White decides to move his king to the f2. Well, it does look dubious. Why is white moving his king when he can easily block the check with any of his pieces? But hey, here the idea is that since black's king and the queen are aligned on the same e file, white is looking for some quick development and get his rook to the open e file so that he can pin black's queen to the king. So that is why white played king to f2. And now since black's bishop is under attack, black moves his bishop to the b6 square. And here white starts executing his idea with bishop b5 check. If black blocks the check with any of these moves, then he will lose his queen to rook e1, pinning the black's queen to the king. So therefore, king moved to the d8 square. But white plays rook to e1 anyway. Now the black's queen is under attack and she has to move. So queen moved to g6 without realizing that now he's quickly losing the game because rook e8 is a brutal checkmate. Here is how black checkmated white. e4, e5, f4, d5. We are seeing the fork pair counter gambit. And now white plays knight to f3, attacking black's center pawn, and black plays d takes e4, attacking white's knight, and knight captures the e5 pawn, keeping an eye on the weak f7 pawn. And now bishop goes to c5, keeping an eye on this weak f2 square as well as stopping white's king to castle on the king side. White plays knight to c3, controlling center squares as well as attacking the weak e4 pawn. Black plays knight to f6, protecting this pawn over here as well as controlling the central square. And here white played queen to e2 with the idea that this file might just clear up anytime soon and he can soon launch an attack on the black's king. And black here played knight to c6, developing another knight and attacking white's centralized knight over here. But here white surprised black with knight takes f7. White is poking black's pieces, and instead of capturing this knight back, black here played an interesting move, queen to e7. White happily captured the free rook, and now black started his deadly attack with knight to d4, not only attacking white's queen but as well as threatening to fork white's pieces by capturing the c2 pawn over here. Queen moved to d1 in order to protect this pawn, but that loses quickly to knight f3 check. White wasn't expecting that. Why is black sacrificing a knight? Well, because black has calculated few moves ahead and he can already see a mating pattern here. So white accepts the sacrifice, and now black plays e takes f3, discovered check by the queen. King can't move anywhere, he has to block the check with one of his pieces, so obviously he chose the bishop. So white plays bishop to e2, but now f2 check. It's so crushing. The only move left for the white player is to move his king to the f1 square, and now bishop h3 is beautiful checkmate. Here is the last one, but before that, do not forget to like this video and do subscribe to my channel. So the game starts with e4, e5, f4, and now black plays knight to c6, defending his pawn as well as controlling the center. White plays knight to f3, attacking the pawn one more time and controlling a center square. Black defends with d6, and now white plays bishop to c4, eyeing the weak f7 pawn. Black plays knight to f6, attacking white's e4 pawn, and white defends with d3. Black plays bishop to g4, pinning white's knight to the white's queen, and white here simply castles, and black plays bishop to e7, preparing to castle too. White plays knight to c3, developing another knight, and black plays knight to d4, trying to double attack this knight with his pieces. But here white plays a very interesting move, f takes e5, attacking black's knight. Black plays pawn takes pawn, and here white surprises with his next move, which is bishop takes f7 check. Why is white sacrificing his bishop? Black doesn't understand anyway, and he feels that his king is safe enough, so he captures the bishop. But here comes another surprise, because white now plays knight takes e5 check. Hey, white is sacrificing his queen over here. What is white up to? Black doesn't understand and he just simply plays king to g8. And now knight takes g4. White is up in material by 2 points, and since black has faced some losses, so he tries to get back his lost material by the next move, which is knight takes g4, because after queen takes g4, black can now easily capture the c2 pawn over here, and now he is just 1 point down instead of 2 points, but he fails to calculate that now his opponent can quickly finish this game with queen e6 checkmate. Do join the channel's membership program if you want to learn chess at a deeper level. And here is the question of the day for you. What is the best move for black here? Should he play knight to g6 or should he play bishop to e7? Let me know your answers in the comments box, and I'll see you in the next video.